Hi, I am Michael Santos, the founder of Prison Professors, and today I wanted to create this video for people who will be working inside of the Bureau of Prisons to implement our program, Preparing for Success After Prison. It's a 30-hour course. It is approved by the Reentry Affairs Division, I think it's called, with the Century Code PSAP. That's PSAP, as in Preparing for Success After Prison. Now, some of you I may have met, some of you I don't know, but I wanted to create this video to give a guide to those facilitators, whether they be people who are serving sentences or people who are tasked with the awesome responsibility of helping people who are serving sentences. And the first thing I want to say is thanks to all of you. I certainly would never try to tell anybody that works for the Bureau of Prisons how to do their job, but I will say it was always the educational people, and reentry wasn't a word really in the Bureau of Prisons when I was serving my sentence. It certainly wasn't emphasized. I'm really grateful to have the First Step Act and to have people like you working tirelessly to try and help people prepare for success after prison. And so in this in our time together during this DVD, I'm going to go through 6 sections. No big deal, but I hope that those 6 sections will help people kind of get ready to introduce this program, this 30-hour program. Each one of the lessons is an hour long, or is designed to be about an hour. And I've already created a video for each one of those lessons, where as if I were a facilitator teaching the program. Right now, what I'd like to do is just kind of give you an overview on the reasons behind different stages in the project. And the first stage is called the self-assessment. It's a simple PDF with 10 questions that I think would be helpful for you as a facilitator to pass this around to participants in the class, just to get them on the record. That's really the goal of these self-assessments. It's to get the people on the record so they may say how they feel about a program, but we want to get them to write it down, because then you as the facilitator can use this throughout the course to kind of hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, or just to really hold them accountable for what they say is important to them. And as I said, this self-assessment only has 10 questions. Here's an example of like what those questions look like. And these questions are really quite simple, but they help us kind of assess where the person says he is. And our course is all designed around this concept of us having 10 questions. In order to be successful or to prepare for success, a person first has to define success. And that's this whole section on values. Then the person has to set clear goals that align with those values. The next step is to demonstrate the person has the right attitude. He is going forward with 100% commitment to success. The next step is to make sure that he aspires to something more than what he is going through right now. Fourth, I think that is fourth. Fifth is going to be he's got to take action. He can't just talk about wanting to prepare for success. He's got to do it. The next one is going to be he's got to create his own mechanisms to measure progress. That's why we have a module on accountability. The next module is on awareness and really keeping your head in the game and making sure that you're spotting opportunities that are available around you, or creating opportunities and also making the world aware of you. The next module is about being authentic. And to be authentic, we really have to really define success, create a plan, put priorities in place, develop our tools, tactics, and resources, and then execute our plan every day, making adjustments as necessary. The 9th module in the program, in the lesson plan, is about celebrating achievements, no matter how small. And then finally, the 10th module is about living in gratitude and expressing appreciation for the blessings that come our way. So in this assessment, we kind of want to get an idea, well, how does this person feel his preparations for success are? Does he feel he's ready? Well, we can do that by just asking a simple question. I'm only going to put one of them up there right now, and this is the question on values. So each one of these questions has a potential of 10 points. There's 5 different options. He can choose to answer as he thinks it's most appropriate for him. So, for example, the values, which response most closely aligns with how you define success? So there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, just what's right for him. And one person might write, well, I'm in prison, I don't concern myself with thinking about questions that don't have anything to do with my life. I'm only thinking about what I'm going to do to make it through my sentence. That's an option. And that's an option that many people in prison, they live by that motto. On the other side of the continuum, that answer gets 0, 1, or 2 points. On the other side of that continuum, you might say, I define success as being able to function where I am regardless of other people's decisions. To work towards success, I created a plan, and that plan helps me stay on track. I know what I will accomplish in the next 10 days, 10 months, and 10 years. Well, what we're looking for as from a facilitator is we want to see what that person has to say about himself, because you could always use these self-assessments later when the person's going through the program. A person who's going through a program that gives himself a 10 should have a lot of backup material to support that. A person who's a 0, 1, or a 2 should own what comes with it. And what comes with it, unfortunately, a lot of times is more challenges in the criminal justice system. So we want to be able to make sure the person has an understanding of where he is. And then, of course, we would give him the same assessment at the end of the course. And hopefully we will have helped nudge him along closer to being genuinely sincere about preparing for success after prison. So when we designed the course, it was really with this idea that people would have to be honest with themselves. They'd fill these self-assessments out, and then they could go through the course. And as I said, it doesn't make sense for me to really walk through the course every lesson, because I've already recorded a video for every lesson, and every institution should have a copy of those DVDs because I've sent them to every institution. Here, I want to kind of teach you some concepts. And those concepts are something you can share with the members of your class. And it's really asking people to think in the beginning about great American companies. What are they? You know, I'm just going to pull some. I'm from the Northwest, so I like to focus on Northwestern companies. But I would say, look at Nike, look at Starbucks, look at Apple, and look at Amazon. Those are 4 great companies. The one thing that unites all those 4 companies is they really began with something that didn't exist before. So there was no running shoe dedicated until Nike came along and started dedicating that. There was no specialized global coffee brand until Starbucks came along. You know, with Apple, it began with 2 guys who said they really wanted to change the world, and they built a computer in a garage. And then Amazon, of course, tried to figure out how can they really change the world using the internet, and they did research, and they figured out they're going to start by becoming the world's largest bookseller. Well, those are 4 great companies, some of the most valuable companies on the planet, and what they all have in common is they began with an idea. And that's what we want to be thinking about with this course. I want to begin with a different idea about what does success after prison mean? How does somebody prepare for success after prison? Well, it starts with an idea, and that idea, if somebody has it, they've got to be able to defend it. They've got to be able to present their idea in the same way that many people do on that popular show Shark Tank. I mean, I like to ask the question, has anybody in the room seen Shark Tank? What happens? And of course, many people have seen it. And so what happens? And people say, well, they pitch an idea to a cynical group, and that cynical group then makes a decision on whether to invest or shoot them down. And the reality, if somebody is a justice impacted person or going through the system, they've got to be selling themselves for the rest of their life. And they should prepare themselves so that they can sell themselves better. Those people that get up on Shark Tank and they present an idea and they're asking for money in a relatively short amount of time, they've got to help other people see what they're building. That's what Nike, Starbucks, Apple, and Amazon all had in common, is they had to convey what they're trying to do when nobody else knew what they were trying to do. So they had to define success and then set the goals. That's the values and goals. That's why we start our module in our course on helping people understand the importance of defining success and then set goals that align with success. And that's why if we look back at our self-assessment, we could say, well, you said you were a 10. I didn't say you were a 10. Or you said you were a 1. I didn't say you were a 1. We hold what they said, and then we say, well, what goals have you put in place to get the best possible outcome? And this is what we want to carry through in all of our courses. We want to help people understand, how did we get to where we want to go? And this idea, this concept, it goes back to many different areas in their life, right? If you take the warden of this institution, he didn't start off being the warden. He likely started off being a correctional officer, but through a period of time, he advanced his career. The person teaching this course, they didn't just start off teaching this course. They've gone through a series of incremental steps. And if you reverse engineer that, you will frequently see that people who succeed, they sowed seeds to get there. That's something I learned while going through prison, and it's the reason I based my course on that concept. And one of the really key concepts of this course, and it's applicable through all of the lessons, is that regardless of what the system makes available to us, a person can always work on some simple personal development exercises. That's what I learned. It didn't matter if I was in the special housing unit, if I was in transit, if I was, if it was on lockdown, it didn't matter. I could always work on building a vocabulary. And if I worked on building a vocabulary, I made myself stronger. I could always work to develop writing skills or verbal communication skills. And if I worked hard, I could develop those skills, and that would be great preparation for my success upon release. I could always work to develop critical thinking. And it's super important that people think about how every decision comes with an opportunity cost. So we have to be thinking about that. And perhaps most importantly, I could always be working to develop a self-directed work ethic. That's a pathway that anybody in prison can take to prepare for success after prison. And in this course, what we're trying to do is influence people to pursue that path. So that's something I'd like you to be thinking about when you're going through the course. And all these lessons in the book, they have a series of open-ended questions. And we would just like you to be bringing this to the attention of the participants in the class. If they're serious about wanting to prepare for success, they should know that they don't have to wait for the system to open up a classroom or do anything. In every one of these books, you'll see in the lessons that I highlighted words that are kind of like SAT words in bold and italics, because I wanted people to develop their vocabulary. I included a lot of open-ended questions. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. I just wanted them thinking. And that thinking and their responses should give you, as a facilitator, more resources to guide them along. And so now we'll turn to this next message here. And that's really, we're talking about the director's message. The director has been very vocal about wanting to present to take the Bureau of Prisons in a different direction. Her main mission is to, what did she say? To make good neighbors, not good inmates. And that gives us an opportunity to really get people to start thinking differently. So I pulled the director's message, and you can see it on the screen. And she spoke about this at the Wardens Conference in Colorado in 2023, highlighting the importance of analyzing the agency's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And from that exercise, she shared the agency's new mission, values, and core values, and vision and core values. And I'm going to read those to you. The mission of the Bureau of Prisons today is that corrections professionals who foster a humane and secure environment and ensure public safety by preparing individuals for successful reentry into communities. That's the mission of the BOP. And I think the salient points of that is successful reentry into our communities. So that, to me, is just really how important your role is as a facilitator, is to advance this possibility. Then let's talk about her vision, her proposed future state for the Bureau of Prisons. Here's what she wrote. Our highly skilled, diverse, and innovative workforce creates a strong foundation of safety and security. Through the principles of humanity and normalcy, we develop good neighbors. So she's really emphasizing the importance of preparing people for success. Then let's talk about the core values she wrote about. Accountability. We are responsible and transparent to the public, ourselves, and to those in our care and custody by the standards we establish, the actions we take, and the duties we perform. She spoke about integrity. We are true to our ethical standards in all circumstances. She spoke about respect. We foster an inclusive environment where the viewpoints of employees, the public, and those in our care and custody are considered and valued. She spoke about compassion. We will strive to understand one another's circumstances and act with empathy, and by we mean each other as colleagues and corrections professionals, and also compassion for those in our care and custody. And then she spoke about correctional excellence. We demonstrate leadership in our corrections field through our practices and values. So that statement by the director goes a long way to showing how the agency is really changing. And I think even showing further is the fact that we are now bringing the Preparing for Success After Prison program into federal prisons across the nation. Because I'm a former, a guy who served 26 years in prison. And the fact that I'm allowed to bring this program in and people are able to get First Step Back credits for going through this program says a great deal about how the Bureau of Prisons is advancing. And I just want everybody who's helping to further this mission to know how grateful I am to have whatever small role I can say I have in bringing it forward. But I'm going to do my part on the outside as well. I'm going to be creating new resources, but I'm going to be, from my regular company, donating 10% of all revenues to further developing the program and helping people incarcerated prepare for success, and also getting businesses outside to become friends of this nonprofit as well that we're building to try and create pathways to jobs for people who come out of prison. So I look at this program as being super important because it gives us an opportunity to help people in prison learn to think about their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities and threats, just like as the director said that she was going to do. And when I taught this course or led this webinar or seminar, live seminar at the federal prison in Greenville, Illinois, working with really some of the great leaders at Greenville and Terre Haute and Marion, and we were going through it. And I'm really grateful to those staff facilitators who helped me from those facilities, whether there's Billy Kirsheimer or Supervisor Education Farmer or Jennifer Bray or who else was there? Womack. I forgot her first name. Courtney Womack. And just people who were helping us really engaging in this exercise. And I had my wife Carol there with me helping. And we just did this exercise. What are the strengths of this program? Is that, it builds hope. It prepares people to start thinking about reentry very early. And it gets them to really work through an experiential curriculum, something that's designed by somebody who was just like them. The weakness we identified was the structure of it. There's 30 different lessons, and they're structured in 1-hour programs. But in reality, as I see it, people can work through this on their own, and it never ends. And for those of you who have access to my ongoing resources, you see I live by this every day. And some people also thought there might be some weakness and peer pressure from people in the prison who aren't thinking about getting ready for success after release. We spoke about opportunities. People who go through this program might qualify for the types of advocacy that I'm arguing for, which is work release programs and furloughs and just more incentives associated with the First Step Act. They may be able to mentor other people and build their own tribes of people who are preparing for success after prison and use that as a tool as they rebuild their lives. What are the threats? Are that, some people may see it as a quick fix to get out early. And it's not that at all. This program is the skills that I learned, or the strategies I learned from leaders like Nelson Mandela and Frederick Douglass and Viktor Frankl and Malcolm X and so many others who taught me while I was going through 26 years in prison. And it's my hope that it helps others. And I hope you as a facilitator will be able to use it and help more people. And so I just wanted to share that's like section 3. Then section 4 of this whole training, I introduced a concept, I think it was in module 2, where we spoke about Johari's window. And I think this is a really good exercise for people in prison because it gets us to be thinking not only about how we see the world, but thinking in terms of the perspective of others, okay? So, and this applies to all people in all phases of life. But of course, in this course, we're speaking about preparing for success after prison. So in the program, you got to think of these 4 different quadrants, right? The first quadrant, quadrant 1, is called the open quadrant. And in this section, you've got things that I know about myself and things that other people know about me. So what's an example of that? Well, I know that I'm a man, and everybody in prison also knows that I'm a man. So that's an open example, okay? And I'm going to relate this to us and how we make decisions. Number 2 is the blind quadrant. And that would be things that are blind, things that are not known to me, but others know about me. So, for example, staff members may know things about me that are in my central file that I don't even know about it. And they may be making judgments based on what they know that I don't know. Number 3 is the third quadrant called the hidden area. And that means it's not known to others, but it's known to me, right? I know I'm deeply committed to preparing for success, but other people might not know that. And I've got to take that into consideration when I'm making decisions. They may not know what I know. And the fourth quadrant is it's not known to me and it's not known to others. For example, no one really knows what life is going to be like for us when we get out of prison. But if we make decisions recognizing, hey, there's a lot of different perspectives here. There's the perspective that's the open perspective, the blind perspective, the hidden area, and the unknown. And our job is to really build up our open area because that's where most of our opportunities lie. And we would like you to be thinking about using this, first of all, to teach people how to hold themselves accountable inside, how to make decisions that align with their preparations for success. And that's what that whole exercise of the Johari's window is all about. I would recommend you use this throughout teaching of the course because you want people to stop thinking only from their own perspective, but to start considering all stakeholders when they're making decisions. And that can help them build a pathway to opportunities. At least that's what I found. And that's the first introduction of the quadrant here. The other one is a quadrant theory that I kind of stole from the financial sector that looked at investments. And I remember reading this when I was in federal prison about how all decisions kind of fall in one of 4 different categories, right? Some of those categories are high risk with a high reward, okay? That's quadrant 1. Some of those categories are high risk with a low reward. That's quadrant 2. Some of those categories are low risk and a high reward, category 3. And some of those are quadrant 4, which is low risk, low reward. So my suggestion is that you push people through these examples and you have them think about these different quadrants. And you try to get them into a situation where they're making more decisions with a lower risk level, but with a high potential for reward. We cannot control other people's decisions. All we can do is control our decisions. And we want to make decisions that are going to expose us to the highest possibility of rewards. So that's what this theory really is all about. And I would encourage you to use this throughout the course. So give an example. The high risk, high reward for me was publishing. It was high risk because some staff members didn't like the idea of somebody in prison publishing, and it could expose me to some potential problems. But the reward made the risk worth it for me. Because I was always striving to publish, I was able to open more opportunities that would advance or accelerate my pathway for success. A high risk, low reward would be something like gambling, right? Because, there's not a lot you can win to make your life better from gambling, but the risk is very high. So, there's just not a tremendous amount of money in prison, but you could lose, which could cause you problems with other people, staff, or other people serving time. So I would tend to try and avoid problems that are high risk with a low reward. The reward should always be getting me closer to preparations for success. Quadrant 3 is low risk, high reward. So what's an example of low risk, high reward? Well, reading. There's no risk in reading. I can just sit down and read, but the rewards are super high because I could be learning more. And quadrant 4 is low risk, low reward, right? So for example, that might be just spending all of my time in solitude, right? Not a lot of risk perhaps in that, but there's also not a lot of reward because I don't get to develop myself mentally. I don't get to develop those skills that are going to help me emerge successfully. So we want to be thinking about that, and we want people to always have their head in the game, knowing what it is they have to do to prepare for success. And that leads us through that concept of the last 2 modules of our 10-part course, which is awareness and authenticity. You're keeping your head in the game, but you've got to be authentic. You've got to be always focusing on what you want. And then the last 2 modules in the course are about achievement and appreciation. You've got to celebrate every little achievement, and you've got to live in gratitude for the blessings that come your way, even if you're in prison. That's what I learned. So I wanted you to know that this whole course is kind of structured in 3 parts. The first part are really just those first 5 lessons where I feature 2 of those overall concepts in each hour. So values and goals, attitude and aspiration, action and accountability, awareness and achievement, awareness and authenticity, and then 5, appreciation and achievement. So 5 first 5 hours. Then you go into the section 2, which is really the application of those 10 concepts. Okay? I talk about it from my own perspective as somebody who did 26 years in prison. This is how I use those concepts to prepare for success after release. All of those lessons are tasking or challenging you to develop your vocabulary, to develop your critical thinking, your writing skills. The back of the book, it has a glossary, so you really don't need anything other than this book to start building your path. But then we go into section 3, which is really about sharpening the saw. And we have 15 modules in there, which are getting you to be thinking about the personal release plan that you need to build, the plan that you need to execute in order to transcend higher than the challenges of living in prison. This is how you build a success mindset. This is how you position yourself for a successful life, even though you may be serving a year or 5 years or 20 plus years inside of the federal prison system. That's the pathway that I took, and I give all kinds of examples in the course. But I also am working out here to develop our nonprofit so I can give supplemental resources as well. In fact, we've built a new website, which I'll be sharing with participants. It's called Prison Professors Talent, with the idea of getting you always to be documenting how you are working to prepare for success. And I'll be sharing more of that by sending workbooks in at no charge to people serving time, because I'm working on a nonprofit that gets like-minded people to sponsor this so that we can give it away free of charge to help more people in prison prepare for success after release and change the culture of confinement. And when we're doing that, we are also working to bring more awareness on why we want to empower the Bureau of Prisons to dispense incentives that encourage people to pursue excellence. And that's what I'm asking you to do, to be thinking about excellence every single day and to focus on what steps you can take every day to sow seeds for a better life. So I'm really grateful to the facilitators. I'm grateful to the teachers. I'm grateful to the wardens who had the courage to allow me to come into federal prisons, and I'm still building these pathways. If you're watching this video, I just want you to know I'm easy to reach. I'm super transparent. My email is michael@prisonprofessors.com. That's one of them, but that's a fine one. I really would like you to visit our website and connect and see if we can provide more resources to help change the culture of the prison system and to help really improve the lives of the people that didn't get out when I got out. I got out of prison in 2013, and I've been working every day to kind of build this ministry. And I just want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share the Preparing for Success After Prison program with you. My name is Michael Santos, and I believe in you. Thank you.